Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 20th of February, now it's 1 o'clock, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There is quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, but before I start, let me once again emphasize how grateful I am for your time, attention and support. And if I may, I will make little announcement. Many of you ask me to create a page on Patreon because you don't use PayPal but want to support my work and my channel. And I did listen to you and create page on Patreon, and now you can subscribe if you want to. Right now I don't have exclusive content on Patreon, but I think to use that platform to answer all those questions that I do see in comment sections, and basically you will choose topics that we will discuss on Patreon. Right now that's my idea how I will communicate with you on that platform, and in time of course I will try to create more and more interesting content. That's been said, let's talk about news now, and of course I'm going to start with Ukraine and the special military operation. And first news gonna surprise you like it did surprise me. RIA Novosti news agency is reporting that President of USA Joe Biden is in Ukraine right now, in Kiev, and you can see picture here. And according to RIA Novosti, Biden has talked with Zelensky in church of Mikhailovsky in Kiev, and probably he did spoke with some other officials of Ukraine also. And not much information right now. This is breaking news, so later on we will probably learn more about this visit and what Biden did promise to Zelensky. I would not be surprised if we will hear that Biden did and his administration decide to provide Ukraine with long-range missiles or jet fighters or anything like that, because I do expect further escalation from the Western elites. But for now, we have only this information that he is in Ukraine. So let's continue. This is RBK news agency. And we have news here that Zelensky yesterday late afternoon made statements that Ukrainian side will not stand for Bakhmut by any cost. As you remember, in previous weeks, Zelensky and his associates did stated many times that they will never retreat from Bakhmut. And let me show you on the map this city. That's Bakhmut here. And Zelensky and his associates many times stated that they will never retreat from Bakhmut. But in previous videos, probably you remember, I was sharing with you informations, including from Ukraine, that were indicators, good indicators, that Zelensky's regime is preparing ground for withdrawal of Ukrainian forces from Bakhmut. And I also talk about attempt from Ukrainian side to create some kind of new defense line in and around Chisov Yar. And now we have information that basically are confirming my predictions. And Zelensky himself is now saying that they will not stand for Bakhmut by any cost. And that's basically almost direct statement that they will withdraw forces from Bakhmut. Although it's too late now, because according to some military experts, Ukrainian armed forces lost in Bakhmut and around Bakhmut. up to 40,000 soldiers killed and wounded, which is a huge blow for Ukrainian side, particularly when they have such a big problem with manpower. So that's a quite significant development also. And we have next information, which is from RIA Novosti, that are saying that Ukrainian side now actively preparing a new defense line in Chesov. And this is according to information from LPR. And yet again, as you know, you won't be surprised hearing these informations because I did talk about these possibilities in my previous videos. So yes, now we have confirmation basically that Ukrainian side preparing ground for withdrawal from Bakhmut, and they are building some kind of new defense line in Chesov. In my opinion, they stand no chance really in Chesov because new build defense line won't be able to stop Russian offensive. But same time, I will predict, if I may, that Russian side may allow Ukrainian forces to leave Bakhmut without heavy equipment, but Russian forces may allow armed forces of Ukraine to withdraw their contingent from Bakhmut. That way, city will be safe, more or less, and there will be less casualties on both sides. And as I said many times before, here in Russia, we don't see Ukrainians as our enemies. And to be honest, I hope more and more Ukrainian soldiers will lay down their arms and just surrender to Russian side to save the lives. Because they are, Russia is not threatening Ukraine, for God's sake. Russia has, Russia basically in war with NATO. This is proxy war, and Western elites openly are talking about it. What other proof Ukrainian soldiers need to have to realize that West is using Ukraine to somehow damage Russia? They don't care about Ukraine or Ukrainians, man. It's just so obvious, man. And that's why, I truly hope that Ukrainian soldiers will just lay down arms and surrender. And that way they will save the lives, So let's continue. And when it comes to Bakhmut, as you can see, even this pro-Ukrainian map is showing now that they acknowledge that Paraskovievka, they just now acknowledge that Paraskovievka is under Russian control. But right now, fighting is going on this line here, and Russian forces are trying to establish control over these villages, Yahidnoe, Verkhovka, and Dubovo-Vasilievka. Fighting is going on around these areas, and I did read information on Telegram channels that at some places Russian forces even managed to partially encircle these villages, and every step that Russian forces are making in this direction creates more and more difficulties for Bakhmut garrison, so they don't really have that much time to withdraw. I also had read information on Telegram channels that Ukrainian forces conduct some local scale offensive yet again in direction of this H-32 highway from Bakhmut to Konstantinovka here. And the Ukrainian side is saying that Ukrainian Telegram channels are reporting that this local offensive was partially successful, and Russian forces are now not in direct control of this highway. But as you can see on the map, even this pro-Ukrainian map is showing that this highway is under Russian artillery control. And that's why I'm saying that even if Russian side will allow Ukrainian forces to leave Bakhmut, they will probably not allow to take with them heavy military equipment. But yet again, I mean, time will tell. We also had information that Russian forces. This is again RIA Novosti news agency, and we have statement from head of Chechen Republic Ramzan Kadyrov, who stated that Russian armed forces managed to establish control over the railway to Seversk. That's Seversk, north of Bakhmut. Bakhmut is here, and that's Seversk here. And it seems like Russian forces did manage to establish control over the railway, which means basically that the situation for Seversk garnison is becoming also quite difficult. Not as difficult as Bakhmut, but in my opinion, it's time for Seversk garnison to start retreating, because once Russian side will establish control over this gray zone here, Liman and Yampol, then Seversk basically will be under operational encirclement, and we may see a similar picture that we are seeing in Bakhmut. Let's continue with news. As you can see, all over the Ukraine are marks of air raid. This is live map, so I'm quite surprised that there are so many air raids all over in so many areas of Ukraine, almost all over the Ukraine. This time when Joe Biden is in Kiev, but this is maybe, I mean, if this is true, and if Russia will right now conduct missile strikes on Ukraine, that will be a strong message to West, of course, from Moscow, that they don't care about Biden and USA and the rest of it. But yet again, I don't have confirmed information that Russia conducted a strike in previous few minutes or hour, or are planning to conduct offensive. But it's possible for Russian ships in Black Sea or in Azov Sea. It will take only a few minutes to prepare and launch missile strikes. So anything is possible. But it's quite significant development. I mean, when it comes to Ukraine, from the beginning, I mean, from Biden's visit, which did surprise me, to be honest. I don't understand how security service allowed him to visit Kiev. I mean, it's just probably I'm quite sure that Washington maybe even gave Moscow information a few hours before Biden visited Kiev, so that there will be no misunderstandings. But still, it's. I'm surprised that this old man was taken to Kiev. I'm not sure he is realizing where he is right now. But he's still president of USA, so from standpoint of security of institution, I think this is big mistake from U.S. Secret Service. I mean, this is just crazy, though. Let's continue with news, and still RIA Novosti news agency, and we have information here from Russian foreign intelligence, from Russian intelligence service, which said that since the beginning of a special military operation, or even earlier than that, since the 2021 January or December of 2021, NATO member states provide Ukraine more than 1100 systems of air defense, 440 tanks, more than 1500 armored personnel carriers, and 655 artillery systems. Also 9,800 rockets for multi-launch rocket systems, 609,000 anti-tank weapons, and 1,200,000 shells. 1,206,000 shells. It's just crazy numbers, man, crazy numbers. And according to Russian intelligence, most of this equipment have been destroyed by Russian side. And this is happening, I mean, it's now obvious that NATO were actively preparing Ukraine to, for war against Russia, basically. And of course, Western elites did knew long before Russian special military operation that they will provoke Russia to start this operation, and they were pouring in weapons to Zelensky's Nazi regime, and they knew very well what kind of criminals those so-called Ukrainian elites are. But come on, man, we are talking about Western elites. They are mass murderers, all of them, and so of course they don't care about these Ukrainian criminals, man. Compared to Western elites, those ones are just nothing, because Western elites they are killing millions, man. They are killing millions, from in just last few decades, man. They killed millions of people in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Yemen, man. They are killing innocent Yemenis right now with starvation. So, Western elites, they are just worst human beings on this planet. And they know very well what kind of criminals these Ukrainian so-called elites are. But, who cares, man? They were pouring in weapons to provoke conflict with Russia, and then use Ukraine as, some kind of torpedo to damage Russia as much as they can. Let's continue. This is TASS news agency is reporting that according to officials from DPR, main reason why Zelensky's Nazi regime did continue fight for Bakhmut was that they don't have a strong enough defense line after Bakhmut. And this is basically true, because if we take a map, then you will see that after Bakhmut and Seversk, on the north side, I mean, you can see just Kramatorsk, Slavyansk defense line, more or less organized defense line. But I did mention many times in previous videos that from 3 defense lines that Kiev regime did build since 2014, weakest one is Slavyansk Kramatorsk, and probably Zelensky's regime knows very well that they will be unable to stop Russian offensive on this line. And maybe that's why they did try to hold on Bakhmut despite huge casualties. Okay, let's continue. This is Lenta.ru. is reporting about statement that President of Polsha did made about Belarus and Lukashenko, President of Belarus, and he did, you know, try to scare Belarusian president, stating that it will be end for Lukashenko if he orders Belarusian forces to enter this conflict in Ukraine. I don't think Poland or any Polish president or any other Polish official is in position to threaten Belarus or Belarusian leadership. But this news, this statement from Duda, Andrzej Duda, once again demonstrates crazy Russophobia that that they are embracing in Polish elites. They just and for them there is no difference absolutely between Belarusians and Russians, and and basically for them I'm quite sure there is no difference between Ukrainians and Russians also, but they're just using Ukraine as a tool to somehow damage Russia. And then of course I'm quite sure Polish elites have some plans to establish control over the western parts of Ukraine, including the city of Lvov. So yes, I did share this information to you to just show you how much Russophobic and xenophobic those Polish elites really are, because they are making some crazy statements on daily basis, sometimes in a few times a day, and they are now openly threatening president of Belarus. And this is, I mean, diplomacy. What diplomacy, man? It's crazy. And Belarusian president did stated many times. I mean, Lukashenko said many times that Belarusian forces will enter this conflict only if Ukrainians or any other country will attack Belarus. And I mean, it must be clear for everyone that as long as Belarus is not under fire, Belarusian armed forces will stay on their territory. Let's continue. RIA Novosti here is reporting that head of German defense ministry, Boris Pistorius, stated that next few weeks gonna have a crucial meaning for Ukraine and for this entire conflict. And he may be right. He may be right because I mean, everyone is expecting a large-scale Russian offensive to begin before end of this month, before end of February, or in the first few days or weeks of March. And if we see Russian large-scale offensive, and if that offensive will be successful, then yes, in that sense, Pistorius is right. Next week is gonna be decisive ones for Ukraine and for entire this conflict. But yet again, time will tell. Me personally, I'm still, even though I would not be surprised if Russia will conduct large-scale counteroffensive operation, I think it's quite possible that Russian forces that are concentrated on border with Ukraine in Belgorod and Kursk region or in Belarus, those forces may have not offensive plans, but defensive ones. If Poland or any other country will try to enter this conflict, But yet again, I mean, who knows? I would not be surprised in any way. And you won't be surprised because, I mean, we are talking about these topics almost on daily basis. So this is TASS News Agency is reporting, and this is very significant yet again, because according to Russian officials, and this time it's Russian Defense Ministry, Kiev is plotting provocation to accuse Russia of violating Convention of Nuclear Safety. And as you know, Russian side many times stated that, Zelensky's regime, together with some NATO member states, are preparing provocation with nuclear materials to accuse Russia. And here we have quite detailed information that, according to Russian Defense Ministry, ahead of beginning of 11th emergency special session of the United Nations General Assembly, Kiev regime continues to plot a large-scale provocation to accuse Russia of alleged blatant violation of the Convention of Nuclear Safety in the course of the special military operation. And we have information that to carry out this provocation, several containers with radioactive substances have been delivered from European country to Ukraine. There is no specific data about country, which European country did give Zelensky's regime radioactive materials, but we have here information that to carry out this provocation, several containers with radioactive substances have been delivered from European country to Ukraine, bypassing customs control. These substances are supposed to be used to stage a local contamination of the terrain near the Kiev-controlled radioactively hazardous facility. So this is very serious, man. This is very serious because we had in previous days information that units of Ukrainian neo-Nazis are using chemical weapons. We have statements from Russian Defense Ministry that Zelensky's Nazi regime, and this is definitely high level. I mean, some may say that, Zelensky's regime has no control over the neo-Nazi formations, and that's why you cannot say that it's Zelensky's regime did order to use chemical weapons. But this time, we are talking about nuclear substances, radioactive substances. So this kind of operation cannot be conducted without involvement of high-ranking officials, top officials in the West and in Ukraine. So this time we are talking about Zelensky's regime for sure, 100%. And if anything happens, I mean, who knows what other plans then Western elites have? They may use this provocation to say, you know what, okay, now we have to give Zelensky's regime even longer range missiles and all those jets and just everything we had. They may use this kind of provocation for that. And if it happens, I mean, Moscow did stated some time ago that Russian side will receive information about usage by Ukrainian forces of depleted uranium ammunition as a usage of dirty bomb, and answer will be according to this assumption. And now, if we see that Zelensky's Nazi regime will conduct some nuclear provocation, I mean, come on, man. Moscow's answer may be and should be, and should be very strong. Let me say this way, or extremely strong. So let's continue. Still TASS news agency is reporting here that according to members of Russian parliament, Putin's speech before Federal Assembly, which will take place tomorrow, mainly will touch topics of special military operation and social guarantees that government promise, not just to military personnel that are active in special military operation, but in general. So it's not surprising, of course. Putin will, and I did talk about this topic too, that Putin will, in his speech, will talk about special military operation. And my guess is, and I'm repeating myself, sorry about it, but maybe not all of you did see my previous videos. My guess is that tomorrow in his speech before Russian Federal Assembly, Putin may announce another wave of mobilization in Russia. I would not be surprised if this will happen. And also Putin may announce about changes on status of special military operation. Or maybe we will see both of these announcements. I mean, who knows? Also, I will say I will also say that we may hear about some big changes in military leadership. We may hear about this also. I would not be surprised if Putin will announce that defense minister will leave his position, and also head of general staff, Shoigu and Gerasimov. I definitely would not be surprised if we hear anything like that. But yet again, let's see, man. Tomorrow probably whole world will listen what Putin has to say. Let's continue, and this video is already 32 minutes. So next I will go through headlines as fast as I can. This is RT News Agencies reporting that U.S. is not stopping, man. I mean, they have no brakes, U.S. elites. And this time we have a statement from U.S. representative in UN. And yet again, U.S. Her name is Linda Thomas Greenfield, U.S. envoy to the UN. So she said that Beijing providing Moscow with lethal aid would cross a red line for USA. And when I read this information, I was thinking, what red line? What? Who are you? Who cares about you or your red lines, really? You are not that big of a deal, man. When US elites will realize that they are not that big of a deal, they are not. They are nobody, for God's sake, man. Truly, I mean, more these kind of crazy statements they made, and more they try to threaten Russia or China or India or any other country, more laughable they are becoming. Less and less, it's less and less possible to take them seriously, man. And now we are seeing that, I mean, in so many days in a row, US officials, one by one, are trying to threaten somehow China, man. And that does show you how delusional those US elites and US officials really are. When it comes to issue itself, I mean, deliveries of partnership between China and Russia, including in military terms, me personally, I'm all for partnership between China and Russia, and I don't see any reason why Chinese should not supply Russia with weapons if Russia wants to, if Russia asks. Before now, we hear many times statements from Chinese officials that Russia never even asked China for any support, really, to provide any weapons or anything like that. But if it happens, it's okay, for God's sake. Look at conflict in Ukraine. How many states are sending weapons to Zelensky's Nazi regime? So if it's okay for USA to send its offensive weapons and its little weapons to Ukraine, why it's not okay for China? I mean, what kind of mentality, or how you say it, man? What is wrong with them, basically? What is wrong with Western elites, man? You know, they are demanding from China to not do exactly what they are doing in Ukraine. I mean, really? So to be honest, I'm all for more and more integration between China and Russia, and economical, and not just economical. So if China will provide Russia with weapons, okay, why not? Because after all, even though right now Russia is winning this war of ammunition, if I may say it this way, against West, and it's clear that Russia is winning this war of ammunition. If China will support Russia with some military equipment, it will be great. I mean, and Beijing probably, would not care what Washington has to say about this. Let's continue, and we have information. This is really Novosti is reporting that in Washington there was an anti-war demonstration on 19th. I did talk about this in my yesterday's update, and yes, I'm uploading to all participants in this anti-war demonstration. I hope it will not be just one-time action, and the anti-war movement will take stronger steps in Ukraine to somehow influence U.S. Elites to withdraw U.S. in from this conflict in Ukraine, because as many Western independent Western military experts are saying, and analytics, Western elites are not realizing that they are truly playing with fire, and this is dangerous, because it seems like in West, those so-called elites truly believing that they may or they will defeat Russia, and this is impossible. This is just impossible. So yes, this is good news. I hope anti-war movement will grow even bigger and bigger in coming weeks and months, because it's just necessary to entire world, for entire world, not just for USA, but for all of us. Because we here in Russia, or Indians in India, or Brazilians in Brazil, we cannot influence Western elites. Just no way. We have no tools for this. But Western societies at least can try, and that's why this anti-war movement is very significant. Let's continue. Oh, this is interesting. LBK News Agency is reporting that European Commission stated that they have no comment on inquiry of U.S. journalist Hersh about U.S. and Norway's involvement in attack on Nord Stream pipelines, and they are not commenting this because they cannot comment on
Just a sec. Domicile. Let me translate this word, man. After all, English is not my first language. Come on. Speculations, yeah. And representative of European Commission stated that some, Hershey's inquiry is some kind of speculation, and they are not commenting on speculations. That's EU's answer for you about act of war and act of international terrorism that U.S. committed together with Norway and possibly with the UK. That's EU's answer, man. That's how weak and you know how weak EU are in general. All this EU bullshit is just a tool for London and Washington, man, to control not just single countries that are part of EU, but from single center control all those countries. It's their project, and they are using this project, this quasi-state that was built under the name of EU. They are using this tool, as they wish. Let's continue. And this is interesting also. We have a TASS News Agency's report here that according to Bloomberg, IAEA now believes that International Atomic Energy is now believes that Iran has some amount of enriched uranium and enriched up to 84%. And as you know, for uranium to be used in military purposes, in nuclear warhead, for example, it's supposed to be enriched up to 90%, if I'm not mistaken. So this information, if it's true, that shows that Iran truly has capacities to build nuclear weapons. But Iranian officials said that data that was given by International Atomic Energy is mistaken, not true, and yes, they are denying, basically. Iran is denying this information, but yes, International Atomic Energy is saying that Iran now has enriched uranium up to 84%, which is yes, big deal, and I would not be surprised if Iran don't really has uranium enriched on this level, but I would not be surprised if Israel somehow managed to influence IAEA leadership, and they did make this crazy statement, so that now Israel can conduct some or use this information to conduct some strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities. Because I'm surprised. When I read this, I was truly surprised. I did not expect Iran to has capabilities to enrich uranium up to military levels. But 84% is it's big. So this information this topic will probably have will have continuation in near future, because this is huge, really. So what else, man? What else? Here we have a Kommersant newspaper, which is writing that Russia and China renew the соглашение. Come on, man. Renew agreement about tourism, and now touristic groups will don't need visas to enter China and Russia. Touristic groups from China will enter Russia without visas, and the Russian groups of tourists will enter China without visas, and it's good. I don't really understand why Chinese and Russian citizens need visas anyway. I mean, what's the deal? I mean, just let do movement between China and Russia completely free. Why not? Really? But it seems like for now, at least, visa is required. Now, RIA Novosti is reporting that Saudi Arabia is losing its position as main supplier of oil to China and losing its positions to Russia. And this is not surprising, really, because for many years now, two major suppliers of oil to China are Saudi Arabia and Russia. But because now Russia is selling its oil on in a low price, on low cost, it seems like Saudi Arabia has some issues. Saudi Arabia is unable to, come on, to compete. Saudi Arabia is unable to compete with the Russian prices on oil. So China, little by little, increasing supply from Russia and decreasing supply from Saudi Arabia. But in general, I mean, these two countries will basically stay main suppliers of oil for China in any case. And let's continue. And this is gonna be last news for today's update. We have information here from RIA Novosti that according to Association of European Businesses in Russia, TATGEO Shilling, despite expectations that Western elites may had, not that many companies really left Russia, and many of them are staying and operating in Russia and are planning to, and have no plans to leave Russian market. I can confirm this. I was working until 12th of the January of previous months. I was working for Leroy Merlin, which is French company. So, and Leroy Merlin has no plans to leave Russia, as I know. And there is many other companies that are staying in Russia and operating. And time to time we are having, we are receiving information that many companies that left Russia are now trying to find some ways to return to Russian market. But now Moscow is creating some difficulties for them because, as a kind of punishment. I'm not sure that this is official position of Moscow. I do believe that Moscow officially are not against freedom of business, but there are some information that, for example, IKEA was planning to return to open its shops in Russia, but probably they encounter some difficulties because Moscow was not happy that they leave Russia. They did shut down their markets, they mega markets or mega places, what that buildings are, mega stores. And now, a few days ago, I did read some information that IKEA is selling all its mega stores, that everything that they have in Russia. And that's good, really, because Russia can survive without IKEA, without BMW, without just any other company, man, any other Western company. And we will be okay. But if you left, I will let them come back on Russian market only if they will invest. Uh, it depends what company are we talking about, but I will require heavy investments from all companies that left Russia to create more jobs uh, and more manufacturing capacities in Russia. That will be, my position. You want to come back to Russia? Okay, no problem. Just build up the factory, and create jobs here. And yeah, let's do the business. So okay, this is it, man. This is it. This is it for now. I hope you find my videos, this video interesting. And if so, please hit that like button. Leave some commentary about any topic you like. And if you can, please share links to my videos on my channel with your friends or Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. If you can and if you want to, you can also support my channel by PayPal and from today by Patreon too. So thank you very much for your time, attention, and support. This is it for now. Take care.